Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Varus supplementary gun, and this one, as you guys can see from both the title as well as the current picture on your screen, features Varus with Serpent's Fang. So, obviously Serpent's Fang is a situational item that you only build when there is a decent amount of shields on the enemy team. It's not going to be a default build for anybody in the game, basically. And as such, this is of course a supplementary guide. This is not the default Varus build, but I will tell you what the default Varus build is. Basically the build you see here: Manamune, Serpent's Fang, Lucidity Boots, Seralda's Grudge, Edge of Night, and GA is basically gonna be his default build, except that the Serpent's Fang and the Edge of Night is lethality item. So basically his default build, to clarify, is gonna be Manamune, lethality item, Lucidity Boots, Seralda's Grudge, lethality item, and GA. So the two lethality items you can use could be Serpent's Fang, could be Edge of Night, it could be Youmuu's Ghostblade, it could even be Duskblade of Drakthar. So it could be like pretty much any lethality item, although the one you probably go for the least is Duskblade, because Duskblade is pure damage and doesn't actually give any utility, whereas the rest of them actually do give some form of utility. The Youmuu's Ghostblade gives you the movement speed, the Serpent's Fang gives you the shield breaker, and of course the Edge of Night gives you the shield. Alrighty, so I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this build in particular. Obviously, we go for Manamune for the mana as well as the poke. Then we go into Serpent's Fang, of course, for AD lethality, and of course also for breaking the shields, which is the whole point of it. Also to note is that Serpent's Fang can be built later as well. For example, you can build it as your second last item, but really, in a game where you need Serpent's Fang, generally you're gonna need it because of a lot of innate shielding. For example, Shen ultimate, Sett W, or like having Lulu or Jan on the enemy team. So generally, you're gonna build it as a second item. So you go for Serpent's Fang, then you go for Lucidity Boots, which is pretty much the only boots that are viable on Varus, because the defensive boots doesn't matter because you're so squishy. If someone gets onto you, you're going to be dead anyway, so you don't need that. You just need the Lucidity Boots. And for the enchant, you generally go for Stasis. Of course, other options like Quicksilver, Proto Belt, etc. are viable as well. Then you go for Seralda's Grudge, which will give you the % armor penetration as well as, of course, the slow. You generally always go for Seralda's Grudge on Varus, and you don't generally go for Moral Reminder. If you need Grievous Wounds, you can get the Executioner's Calling and sell it at the very end. But generally, you always go for Seralda's Grudge because the slow is just way too useful to have long-range slows. So then after you of course go into the Edge of Night, this will of course give you a shield, which will of course block a hostile spell. Really useful if you're against a like catch style team, like if you're against like a Vi, Nautilus, that sort of deal. And finally you go for GA. Now, why do you actually go for GA here? Because we have already covered that GA is a really expensive item now that it's pretty much not worth to get. But the reason why you go for a GA on Lethality Varus is because lethality scales really poorly into the late game. So there is no real point getting a third lethality item. So for example, if I replace GA with like Youmuu's Ghostblade or like Duskblade, it really doesn't make sense because by that time, the tank champions have had enough armor that they can ignore your lethality, and the squishy champions are already going to be taking enough damage from you from double lethality item as well as Seralda's Grudge and the Mirror Mana. So you don't actually really need a third damage item. So the best item you can go for in this instance is of course going to be the GA for the revive. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the runes and the spells. So for the runes, obviously you go for Airy, which will increase your poke damage, which is Varus's entire playstyle. And I actually like going for the Giant Slayer. Now actually, this is a toss-up between Weakness and Giant Slayer, because with Weakness you increase your damage by 5% onto whoever you hit your ult on, which sometimes if you hit it on a squishy target, will actually boost your damage by that 5% that can allow you to one-shot that squishy target. So Weakness is still really good. But Giant Slayer I take in matches where I know that the enemies will be building health. So for example, if there's like 2 tanks and a fighter, that kind of thing, the Giant Slayer has a lot of value because it increases your damage by a whole ton. So I kind of go between Giant Slayer and Weakness. And for the second rune, I do like to take Nullifying Orb, mostly for the laning phase, where you are likely going to be fighting in close quarters. If not, actually Bone Plating is really good on Varus as well, because aside from the laning phase, most of the time no one can really reach you. So this will actually help you a lot in terms of just staying safe from the burst if somebody actually does reach you. And finally, I had to go for the Hunter Genius, of course, so that Varus can get his spells, especially his Q, up more often to, of course, snipe people and just poke people out. And lastly, for the spells, I like to go for Exhaust and Flash. Now, Exhaust, of course, is going to be really helpful when people jump onto you. It's really especially good for assassins and divers, that when they jump onto you, you're going to exhaust them, and you're likely going to be able to disengage with your ult or to just flash away. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the Varus build runes and spells. Now we can move on to talking about the gameplay. Alright, so here is the Varus gameplay, and now I don't normally say this kind of things in my videos because normally the videos are meant to be very like constructive and like helpful as a guide, but in this particular match I have been on like a 5-game losing streak, and this is like my 6th game, and you guys will see like in a couple of minutes time that the game goes very badly at the start. And you can also see that from, of course, the thumbnail where I did show the goal graph. At one point in time we had an over 8k goal deficit, and throughout the entire match we pretty much didn't have a goal lead all the way up till the final moments before we end the match. So you can imagine that my mental is probably going to be horrible at this point when I've already lost like 5 matches, and this is the 6th match, and this is how the 6th match is going. Like my whole team is like basically feeding, and everyone is doing badly, and basically it seems like the match has no hope. But really what I want to try to tell you guys with this is, of course, even when you're on a losing streak, you know, don't you know, get too discouraged. And even when your whole team looks like they're like just feeding and it looks like the game is unwinnable, actually the game still is winnable. You guys will see how that happens. We lost like a couple of team fights in a row, and then we after that started winning a couple of team fights, and you will see how that happens, of course. So now we're gonna actually get into the actual, like, you know, constructive or like actual educational parts of this video itself, which is talking about why I have gone for the Serpent's Fang. So firstly, on the enemy team we have Nautilus, who has a shield on his W. Now that's not the most biggest deal in the world. It's gonna be way more effective against someone like a Janna or Lulu, who actually has a lot of shielding in their kit itself. But what we also have on the enemy team is Samira and Draven. So for some reason the enemy team has a Draven mid, and as a result of that, Draven and Samira like going for Bloodthirster as their first item. And the Bloodthirster, of course, has a really huge shield when you stack it up, like when you overheal. It's like, I think, a 300 damage plus shield or something like that. And so I can actually reduce that shield before the fight starts, because I can poke them from long range and pretty much just remove that shield, which actually is really helpful and is really underrated. And thirdly, the Jace over here has barrier. So in case you guys didn't know, barrier is also it also counts as a shield, so Serpent's Fang also reduces the barrier. And the last reason is, this didn't actually happen eventually, but I thought that Olaf would buy Sterix Gauge, because that's a really common item for Olaf to buy, so I thought that I would counter the Sterix Gauge that he's gonna buy, but it turns out that he didn't actually buy it eventually, or if he did, he must have sold it, because in the final item build, he didn't actually have a Sterix Gauge. So anyways, it's a really good match to actually build Serpent's Fang. Of course, the only thing that could have basically made it better is if the Nautilus was an Enchanter support. Serpent's Fang would have a lot more value, but it already is really valuable in this particular match anyways. It pretty much gives the same stats as Youmuu's, but it just gives you the shield breaker instead of the movement speed. So of course the movement speed is really nice and all, especially for rotations, but I think that the shield breaker, I call it the shield breaker, but you guys know it's the venom that reduces the shield by 35% because it's a ranged champion. It doesn't literally break the shield and remove the shield. I just say shield breaker just because it's easier to say than like the venom from the Serpent's Fang, if you know what I'm trying to say. So as I was trying to say, basically, you know, the value from removing shields is pretty huge in this particular match. So here, Nautilus tries to engage on me. I flash out because Morgana is really slow on the black shield, and I'm really not sure that black shield is going to actually connect, because if it doesn't shield me in time, I'm going to get hooked by the Nautilus, and that's a guaranteed death because Olaf is there as well. So of course, as a result, I want to just flash, like don't want to be greedy with my flash here. I'm just going to flash out of the way and ensure that I do not die there. Alright, so Varus's game plan for basically the entire game, whether it be early, mid, or late game, is pretty standard. All you want to do is use your arrows to poke people down. Even in laning phase, you just want to use your arrows to poke people down. Why do you want to poke people down with your arrows in laning phase? Of course, firstly, it's to stack your mana mune. Secondly, it's to chunk them out so that if the jungler comes in ganks, the likelihood of getting a kill is way higher. Varus is just annoying like that. It's just a poke lane. And if you ever played against a Varus who is very accurate with his arrows, you know what I'm talking about, that you just keep getting chunked and you're nowhere near in range to actually do any damage to him. So if you are able to, of course, just poke them out. Like you see here, Samira is already like at about 1/3 HP, and I'm still full HP, so I'm just like poking her out. Again, another poke, and now she's basically at 1 HP now. If she gets hit by another arrow, she's basically dead. So basically, this forces her to back. So if she doesn't back, if I can hit an arrow, I get a kill. If she actually backs, like she did here, Nautilus is left alone. I can farm, and I can, like, you know, damage Nautilus. Now, unfortunately for me here, Olaf actually comes in. I exhaust the Olaf immediately. He pops the ult to get the movement speed, and he actually straight up just runs me down. Now, unfortunately for me, Morgana was really greedy for the kill, and to be honest, she couldn't really peel for me anyway because Olaf is immune to CC at that point in time. But she ends up trading 1-for-1 with the Nautilus, which basically means that at the end of the day, we end up trading 1-for-2. Now here, Cannon comes in, ends up getting the another kill, so now it's a 2-for-2, but Cannon's gonna die, so overall it's a 2-for-3 in favor of the enemy team. So basically it didn't really quite work out in favor of my team overall, unfortunately. So the enemy team is able to get more kills than us. Now here Draven has rotated over and picked up a couple of plates with the enemy team as well. So here, as you guys can see, it's just back to the game plan, just poking people out with arrows. Draven is in the area, trying to, of course, get down a couple auto attacks onto us. A couple auto attacks from Draven is really going to hurt, and I really don't want to experience that, so I'm just maintaining my distance. The dragon here is up, but instead the teams are kind of fighting in the mid lane, so I'm going to quickly rotate over to the mid lane and see what I can do. Trying to launch an arrow from downtown, kind of goes a little bit wide. I try to launch my ult, but it's barely out of range of the Nautilus, unfortunately. So here, I get the arrow onto the Draven. Of course, I'm aiming for Draven, not the Nautilus, but I also get the Nautilus after that. Not the Draven, actually. I was aiming for the Olaf, because he's the jungle. So eventually, I pick up a triple onto the Draven as well. And this is really the fight that kind of turns the game around. It didn't turn the game around. We're still not... I mean, at this point in the game, it's still pretty even. We're not at the point where we're losing really badly yet, so the game is still pretty even at this point. But this is the fight in the game where I actually get myself fed. So it was really important that I got this triple kill here, because this allowed me to actually get really fed, and without this triple kill I don't think I could have carried my team into the late game and actually won the game eventually. But yeah, so here Olaf comes in, kills the kill, and gets the dragon. I exhaust the Olaf, and I am able to actually kill the Olaf, but unfortunately Draven is there, and Draven actually manages to pick up the shutdown, which is really not ideal, because Draven already is fed. He has Bloodthirster and BF Sword, and now he has my 4-kill shutdown as well. So he probably can complete his IE relatively soon. So that's really bad. But honestly, there isn't really a good target to give the shutdown to on the enemy team, aside from maybe the Nautilus. But yeah. That didn't quite work out very well, and as you guys can see, the game is kind of slowly turning in favor of the enemies after this particular fight. Here, Cannon is able to get the kill on Samira though, which is really good. The enemy team has almost a 3k goal lead on us, which is when the goal lead that goes past 3k is like when it really starts to feel that the team that has 3k more goal has an advantage. Like if the goal is below 3k difference, it is gonna feel relatively even between the teams the majority of the time. But here we slowly are, you know, starting to lose out in terms of goal. Here I spot Olaf, and I don't want to go anywhere near him because I'm so far from my tower that he can very easily run me down. So I'm not going to be greedy to clear the control ward in the tri-bush, even though I really wanted to. Alright, so here, actually that was a really unsafe way to walk, because if Nautilus decided to go for a hook and connect it, I was going to be dead. But I didn't know the Nautilus was there because I thought only Jace was there, so that was kind of it could have been a huge mistake by me, but thankfully it wasn't. So here my team is rotating to go for Rift Herald instead. The whole enemy team is coming. Cannon goes in with the ultimate. Nautilus goes in despite having 0 mana, so he dies by himself, and we are also able to pick up a kill onto, who was that? Actually no one died. Jace is actually left at 1 HP. Anyways, as you guys can see, Olaf basically just runs us all down. Samira picks up a double and Olaf picks up a triple. So here my team get ace. And here is really the fight where I feel that oh man, you know, we're really not doing really well this game. Like, we're now 5k gold behind, and as you guys can see, we just got clean aced, and we only managed to trade a kill onto the Nautilus, which is basically means nothing much. So it's a really bad situation for us at the moment. But as I always say, which is why I really love to post these kind of gameplays where we are behind and we end up eventually coming back. It's that in the game, like even in like Challenger, Grandmaster, and Master, like even in high elo, it's always going to be possible that you can come back, because sometimes it just takes one guy to make one stupid mistake and the game completely flips on its head. Like I had a game where like the enemy team had like a 15k gold lead, but for some reason the Draven, there was a Draven on the enemy team, and for some reason he decided that he wanted to solo the Elder Dragon when my jungler was up and alive and everybody else on my team was dead. So he decided to solo the Elder Dragon. The jungler came in, smited the dragon right as we respawned, and my whole team got Elder Dragon, and right there, even though we have a 15k gold deficit, we basically just ended the game in the next like 2 minutes. So there really isn't a game that's unwinnable. Of course, it requires your enemies to make some mistakes, which is going to be less and less likely the higher elo that you go. But what I'm saying is that it still happens. It still happens even in high elo. So that's why I generally never surrender games, like ever. But anyways, yeah. So here we are, back in this current game that we're going to be discussing. We've already picked up the Serpent's Fang, as you guys can see, and we also have the Mana Mune Evolve. So at this point in time, despite being so behind, we should be doing decent damage, and also of course the shield removal is going to be really helpful for us. So of course we gotta, honestly, this gameplay does show really good examples of shield removal. However, because Varus' range is so long, a lot of times the people I hit with my arrows are off screen. Like as you can see just now, I removed Draven's shield there on the Bloodthirster actually, but it was kind of off screen, so it wasn't really easy to see. Anyways, here basically my entire team gets aced again. So here Draven picks up a double kill, gets his cash in, he's 4-1 and 7, super duper fat. 2 items completed already, about to go get his third one really soon. And yeah, so here you guys can see there is a 9k gold lead on the enemy team roughly. So this is pretty much the kind of point in the game where you think like, oh man, this game is not even winnable anymore, which is kind of really what I thought too, to be honest. But I still tried my best in the game anyways. The enemy team nearly pick up the inhibitor and they try to greet for it, but they don't actually get it. Draven gets flung back into our team, and I believe he gets shut down. Okay, he's actually not getting shut down. He's actually, yeah, okay, there we go. He gets shut down. The Samira dies as well. Kill goes in with the ulti. And I'm just here removing the shield of the Nautilus. And here I pick up a kill as well. And yeah, I pick up a double actually. So here Jace goes in. I exhaust him to try to help keep the who is that? The Kale or the Singed? The Singed alive, I think. Or was it the Kale? I don't know, because the scoreboard actually blocked that one. I think it was the Kale, and I think that the Kale actually died. I'm not sure anymore, but we end up actually getting an ace on the enemy team, and we actually end up winning a fight. Why? Because the enemy team made a mistake. What mistake did they make? They tried to greet for the inhibitor, and they didn't actually get it, and everybody respawned, and as a result, we get like kills on all of them, and we get all of their shutdowns. So if you guys notice, we had a 9k gold deficit just a minute ago, and now the gold deficit is down to 6k. So we basically recouped 3k worth of gold from that play. Now of course 3k is a lot of gold, but the fact of the matter is still the difference is about 6k gold difference. So it's not like we're out of the woods yet, but that was a really good fight from us. Now here the whole enemy team groups up in the pit, gets hit by the like 4-man cannon ultimate, and basically me together with Cannon evaporate them. I make sure to secure the dragon as well, and here basically we get another clean ace. So now the 6k gold deficit has now dropped to a 4k gold deficit, and not only that, I also managed to steal the dragon, and not only that, Baron is up. So with this clean ace, 2 clean aces in a row, we managed to actually get 6k gold deficit. We managed to recoup 6k's worth of gold deficit, and we also managed to pick up the Baron, which is going to allow us to pick up not only more gold, but also more turrets. And of course turrets also give gold, so that's even more gold to our team. So here we got the Baron secured. Just going to recall and get ourselves the Seralda's Grudge. Obviously with that many kills, really simple to pick up the Seralda's Grudge. And now we also have the other serrated dirk. So we should be dealing a whole load of damage now. Now you can see that I have like almost 12k gold, which is actually more gold than both Olaf and Samira, even though they are both really fed. Of course, I don't have comparable gold to Draven, because Draven gets so much gold from his passive. But here, I'm going to pick up the red buff. At this point, especially because Kill is not yet level 15, and she's also not fed, she only has 2 items. The red buff is going to be way better on me because I am actually very fed, so I'm just going to take the red buff. And yeah, so here we have the Baron buff, and we really need to make use of the Baron buff here to get some value out of it. So here Singe just does manage to do a little bit of distracting of the enemy team. So here we're going to try to push down mid and get at least mid tier 2, and maybe can try to go for mid inhibitor. Singe is managing to get the Samira as well as one other, I think it's the Olaf and the Samira, to actually chase. So Olaf and Samira are actually coming in from behind us, which we of course can see because of the ward. So I'm not going to get tricked by this. I'm going to just launch my arrow there, so they know that we're there. So here we're kind of sandwiched in the between the enemy team. Here I see Draven caught out. I actually managed to instantly burst him almost fully, but Cannon does get the kill onto Draven. I exhaust the Samira when she goes in, auto attack her for the kill. The Olaf tries to go in. I'm going to just arrow him to the face to get the kill, and I get the triple onto the Jace as well as the Quadra onto Nahlas. Unfortunately, I died to some kind of DOT after that, but if I actually got that kill on the Draven that I was bursting just now, I actually would have gotten a Penta there, come to think of it. But yeah, anyways, but as a result of that, we still have the Baron buff, so we can definitely push onto an inhibitor. And here I was actually thinking that it could have been possible to actually end. And I think that if Singe and Cannon were like actual damage dealers, like if they were like AD like champions, not AP champions, I think that we actually may have been able to end the game here. But because they're both AP and they don't really do a lot of damage from their auto attacks, it ends up only about half healthing the base. So unfortunately, the game is not yet over. Singe gets exhausted, gets pelted by basically everything. Draven's QSS is out, Nautilus Flash as well. Not Draven. The Singe actually does manage to escape in the end by popping his ult, and his ghost does manage to actually get out. And here I finally have respawned. So I'm back with my Edge of Night completed, which is going to help me against Nautilus hooks. To be fair, Nautilus hasn't actually been able to hook me outside of the laning phase, so it actually really wasn't too big of a concern, but I wanted to go the safe route and go for Edge of Night and not be greedy, go for Youmuu's or Duskblade, something like that. Alright, so here the next Baron is going to spawn pretty soon, so that's just something we have to be aware of, that the Baron is on the cards. And know that, you know, we have to play around the fact that Baron is alive, basically. So 3 wards into the Baron pit. I'm blasting myself over because there's no enemies there, so it's really safe to do so. I'm gonna see if we can find a pick or at least start poking people out before anything happens. So here I'm starting to poke people out, of course. I whiffed out again, which is really not good. But here we got Samira's W. And yeah. That basically Singe died, so it's not really a really good fight, but I do manage to actually turn around and get the snipe onto the Jace, who obviously underestimated my damage. So we're now 4v4. Dragon is about half a minute from spawning, and the Baron is up. Now the enemy team is actually doing the Baron, which is really fine by me, because as a Varus, I can very easily just chunk them out, or maybe even steal the Baron. So the enemy team realizes that this is not a good idea, and they decide to actually turn around for the fight instead. Now, Kill actually walks face first into them, they don't actually punish her. Cannon whiffs the ult completely, which is really, really bad. Here Draven actually gets caught out by me, gets rooted again, and gets bursted. Here he exhausts me, I exhaust him, and Morgana does pick up the kill. Kill manages to kill Samira, and here Nahlas is running for the hills. I flash forward, and I do end up getting the kill onto him. In the meantime, Olaf actually tanks the inhibitor to finish off the inhibitor that was low HP this entire time. Now here, honestly, only Olaf and Jace was left alive, so all we needed was for one person to stop the Olaf from backing, and the other four people, to actually just come with me straight down mid lane to end the game. But the whole team gets so greedy for the Olaf kill that no one wants to follow me down mid lane, and basically we don't end up winning the game because of that. Now we literally could have won the game right here. The Jace cannot defend against 4 people, so you just need one person to stop Olaf from backing. He doesn't need to kill Olaf, as long as he doesn't die to Olaf, and as long as he doesn't allow Olaf to back, the other 4 people can just run down mid and end the game because Jace cannot stop all 4 of us. Anyways, I was honestly pretty pissed off at this point because my team basically literally just threw the game. Like, they didn't die or anything, but by not ending the game, it's giving the enemy an opportunity to actually end the game, because now we're actually in the driver's seat. As you can see, for the first time in the game, our goal is actually comparable. We are basically like about 300-400 goal apart, which basically is you can consider even. Now Singe yet again runs around and dies. Now, to be fair, aside from me, this Singe is probably playing the best in this entire team, but he's just randomly getting caught out. But aside from that, in actual team fights, he's actually, or not even in team fights, but he's actually baiting a lot of people to chase after him. He's actually tanking a lot of damage, so he's actually playing pretty well. Aside from the parts where he pretty much just ends his life away for no good reason. So anyways, here we have basically full build with the GA. The enemy team is on the Baron, so of course Cannon goes in with his ultimate, and I'm at the back here just trying to shoot whoever I can with my arrows here. Just hitting just people with my arrows basically. So here the enemy team is going back on the Baron. We are 3v4 at this point in time, but Nautilus is really low. Olaf decides to try and turn and go for the fight. Just look at that. Did you see Olaf trying to use the Gargoyle enchant and how there's basically no shield? That was because of the venom from the Serpent's Fang. And also I make sure to secure the Baron. As you guys can see, I did get the Baron over there. So basically at this point in time we have the Baron, and we can basically just try to end the game again. So again, only me and Singe are left alive. And what is Singe doing? He's just randomly trying to run at Nautilus and Draven for no good reason, when he could have been, trying to push down mid with me to end the game. He does actually end up getting the kill on the Draven, which is pretty much the only good news out of this entire scenario. So here, obviously the enemy team is going to respawn really soon, so we cannot actually go and try for the end of the game anymore. So instead, we're going to have to go for the Elder Dragon. Now, the Elder Dragon is a very iffy objective that I really hate going for, because basically the team that gets Elder Dragon basically wins the game, because it's late enough in the game that death timers are really long, and basically whichever team gets the Elder Dragon more or less can basically just win the game, because the other team basically just cannot fight them. So here, is that Kill? No, Cannon TPs to the Elder Dragon. I make sure to pop the plant. I still have my Edge of Night up, so I'm just going to face check this bush. I wouldn't do this if I didn't have my Edge of Night up. So here I just ult the Nautilus and just basically just burst him out. Here Olaf is trying to get into the pit, but unfortunately for him, I already popped the Blast Plant, and he doesn't have a flash. If you take note, he has Smite and Ignite, so he doesn't actually have flash. He cannot get into the pit, and he dies. So here, now that we have the Elder Dragon and we have the Baron, basically this game is secure. And even now, look at the goal. It's 77.6 to 77.6. We're not even ahead in goal yet. Now, of course, after we get these couple of last few kills, we are finally going to be ahead in goal of the enemy team for the first time this game by like 400 goal, and we finally get the end of the game. So hopefully this gameplay showed you guys, number one, of course, not to give up and to just, try your best in every game. And of course, number two, how good Serpent's Fang as an item really is. Like, just the Olaf literally couldn't do anything with the Stoneplate enchant. I honestly think if you see like Serpent's Fang on the enemy team, going for a Stoneplate enchant is inting basically. So because his Stoneplate enchant did basically nothing. So anyways guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Leave you guys with the rest of the stats as usual, and goodbye.